All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to meet our head table. All right, first, the man responsible for flying in our special guest today is the CEO of Energy Transfer Partners. He's one of the most successful businessmen not only in the United States, but in the world. Let's please give a great big Arkansas welcome to Kelsey Warren. Our next special guest has been to Little Rock before. He's the former head coach at Alabama, Texas A&M, and in the NFL. He also spent 14 years as a secondary coach for Tom Landry. One of his star pupils was today's honoree, Cliff Harris. Please welcome the coach, Gene Stallings. Our next special guest was the Vice President of Player Personnel and Talent Scout for the Dallas Cowboys for 28 years, from 1960 to 1988. He was one of the first people hired by Tex Schramm. He currently is NFL.com's senior analyst and personnel guru, even at 80 years old. Please welcome the one and only Gil Brandt. Next, we have a safety that teamed with Cliff Harris to form one of the greatest safety tandems in the history of the NFL. He was a two-time Pro Bowler with 9 playoff interceptions, 3 in one game. Please welcome Charlie Waters. This super athlete made it to 10 straight Pro Bowls and still holds the record for the most career interceptions as a Cowboy at 52. He was elected into the NFL Hall of Fame in 1996. Please welcome Mel Renfro. In 1973, our next guest was signed as an undrafted free agent out of Tulsa and went on to become one of the NFL's greatest wide receivers. He was inducted into the Cowboy Ring of Honor in 2011. Please welcome number 88, Drew Pearson. Our next guest retired from football in 1980 as the second highest rated passer in the history of the NFL. He was inducted into the National Football Hall of Fame in 1985. He had a tour of duty in Vietnam, won the Heisman Trophy in 1963 at Navy, and was the first player ever to win the Heisman and then go on to be an MVP in a Super Bowl. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Roger Staubach. And finally, our man of the hour, one of the truly great sports stories to ever come out of Arkansas. And more on that story later. Today we officially kick off a national award in his name that honors the top small college defensive player in the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big Little Rock Touchdown Club welcome to Cliff Harris. How about a round of applause for our amazing guests today here in Little Rock? They did make it. Many hurdles in the way, but just like many of their Dallas teams, they found a way to get here today. I do want to thank, and these guys can eat for just a few minutes, I do want to thank somebody right off the bat that I failed to mention last week who's really worked extremely hard. Our executive director who, you imagine, 2 consecutive sellouts in 6 days, how difficult that would be. Please give a round of applause to Kelly Lassane, our executive director. She's back in the back. I do want to quickly thank our sponsors as well. First, Metropolitan National Bank. Lunsford Bridges, thank you so much. It's exciting to see what kind of day we have today here because of your sponsorship. The Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Wally Hall, thank you. Tabitha Cunningham, thanks for all your support. They did the programs today. Thank you very much. Crane Automotive, Larry Crane. Larry, great to have you back again this year. Make sure when you go in to buy a vehicle from one of the Crane dealerships that you say you heard about them here at the Touchdown Club. Thank you, Larry. Wendy's, Nan Trammell. Next week we'll have Dan Hampton for our Dan Hampton Award. Glad to have Wendy's on board. Thank you, Nan Trammell. Epic Health, Mike Whitfield. I do want to thank Mike and Epic for jumping on board this year. Their motto is gain energy, lose fat, get healthy, and live better. So hopefully they can help us do that this year as the year progresses. 103.7 The Buzz. Justin Akery every Monday out in our lobby. Glad to have them out there. Thank you, Steve Johnson. And actually, Matt Harris, Cliff's son, was actually doing the radio show today with Justin. I think he's going to be possibly at every Monday broadcast. I was proud to be the Little Rock Touchdown Club. Do want to thank the LRCVB, the Convention and Visitor Bureau. Also want to thank Metters, Adams, and Lee. Andrew Metters, who's one of our founders. Thank you, Andrew, for what you guys do and for all your insurance needs. See them. Also, Twin City Limo. This is the vehicle that we picked up the guys in today, and also the vehicle that we picked up Coach Bielema and his party last week. I do want to thank Dale Bennett, the GM, and Popeye, the driver, and Greg Hatcher, who is the owner. And I think Greg is here somewhere. Greg also was kind enough to send his plane to go get Coach Stallings. And Greg, thank you so much for doing that. We appreciate it. And it just so happens, I don't even know if our podium knows this, that Greg Hatcher's daughter dates Cliff Harris's son. So we may have a little family gathering here today. And last but not least, Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings Law Firm. It's a firm that's been around 113 years, one of the most fabulous law firms, not only in Arkansas, but in this part of the country. Judy Henry heads up their sports division in addition to all the other work she does. One of only 7 women in America that's registered by the NFL to be a sports agent. At this time, I want to bring her up because she was the one who stepped in and said, we want to sponsor the Cliff Harris Award. So if you will, please welcome Judy Henry.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Little Rock Touchdown Club. We at Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, all 67 lawyers, are so excited to sponsor the Cliff Harris Award. This honors not only Cliff and the legacy of professionalism and excellence that he left on the field, but it also honors a distinct group of athletes from across our nation that otherwise would not be represented or recognized. And so we're excited about the Small College Defensive Player of the Year Award and the fact that David has worked so hard to make this a national award. We're excited about that. So Cliff, for us, it was an easy decision to partner with you. You have demonstrated excellence not just on the field, but in your oil and gas business, also in your golf tournament and how you represent the community of Dallas and Texas in fighting diabetes and looking for a cure for diabetes. And so for us at the Wright Firm, we are really excited to partner with you and partner with the Little Rock Touchdown Club. I'm personally honored because I grew up watching these guys play football. This is how I learned football, was through the Dallas Cowboys. And so our association with Cliff in a new way is really special to us. David, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for calling us. Thank you for allowing us to partner with you.
Thanks, Eugene. Appreciate that. And you can follow Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings on Twitter at WLJ Sports Law. How about that? Some of you, that's foreign language. Others, you know exactly what I'm talking about. At this time, I want Rex Nelson to come up and acknowledge those special guests from OBU. Rex, come on up real quick.
We do have a big Ouachita contingent here today to honor Cliff, and in a minute I'm going to have any former Ouachita student or alum of the school to stand up, because you guys know as well as I do, Cliff's going to forget to mention you when he gets up here. So want to give a special recognition, though, to start with, to the president of Ouachita Baptist University, Dr. Rex Horn, and his wife, Becky Horn, here today. Many of you remember Rex and Becky from their many years at Emmanuel Baptist Church here. Also, the First Lady of Ouachita football, wife of the late Buddy Benson, who was Cliff's coach, Janet Benson, and her friend, somebody very close to the program also, Molly Turner. Mrs. Benson, Mrs. Turner, welcome to you. And the athletic director at Ouachita, David Sharp. Now, at this point, I'd like to ask, whether you played football or not, if you were ever a student or you graduated, some of you were students and didn't graduate probably, but of Ouachita Baptist University, would you stand real quickly so everybody can see, Cliff can see our contingent that we've got here today. Thank you. Also with Gil Brand here, the all-time great scouting operation in football, I did want to mention, David, we've got a number of past inductees into the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. Wally Hall, our president, is here today. But one of our recent inductees in the last couple of years, scouted many years for the Cowboys, Bob Ford, came over from Wynn today. So, Mr. Ford, it is good to have you here today. And Cliff will go a little more into the introductions, but I very quickly wanted to say one word before the formal introduction by Jim Rasco about the Harris family. Cliff's sister Margaret is here today. Cliff's brother Tommy is here today. You Razorback fans will remember Tommy Harris from his days as an Arkansas Razorback. You may especially remember sitting in the Cotton Bowl, as I was, on January 1st, 1976. Arkansas against Georgia, when Vince Dooley tried a shoestring play right before halftime, and it was Tommy Harris that broke it up and led to a Razorback victory in that Cotton Bowl. Cliff comes from quite an amazing family, as does Tommy and Margaret. Our fathers had been roommates together and football players together at Ouachita in the 1940s. Cliff's sister and my sister were friends. My older brother and Tommy, when they were young boys, were friends. In fact, Arkansas is such a small state, when Cliff's father, while Cliff was in high school, was transferred to Des Arc from Hot Springs by Arkansas Power and Light Company, they moved into the home next to my grandparents in Des Arc. And Cliff, we've got a number of Prairie County people here today that have come up and said hi to me. I just wanted to say one word. Cliff's father, a Bearden native, O.J. Buddy Harris, my father called him the best football player he had ever seen. Mr. Harris was also a war hero, a pilot during World War II, shot down, left floating in the ocean at one point. I want to quote real quickly, David, from a column that Kevin Sherrington did in the Dallas Morning News a couple of years ago. Here's what he wrote about Cliff's dad. Quote, Cliff Harris keeps several images of his father close to heart. Linebacker and center at Ouachita Baptist, P-38 Flying Cross, educated, disciplined, upbeat, husband and father of three. And then there's this too. O.J. Harris, his face inches from a TV screen, making out fleeting shadows. O.J. had first learned he had diabetes through a routine physical. The diagnosis washed out his plans to be a test pilot. But he did as he was told. He gave himself insulin shots daily, and he never complained. And diabetes took his sight at the age of 50. You know, by the time Cliff started playing for the Cowboys in 1970, Mr. Harris was already having a hard time finding him on the field. At home, he would turn down the sound on the television and listen to the radio. Kevin Sherrington wrote, Cliff didn't think about it much back then. He was too caught up making and keeping his position with the Cowboys. And Cliff said in that story, my dad never flew again after the war. I played in 5 Super Bowls, and he never got to live his dream. I'll never forget the moving talk that Cliff gave after his father passed away in 2001. I wanted you to know that these three here, Margaret, Tommy, and Cliff, they came from a great family. Their mother, Margaret, was a Henderson Reddy. And Coach Stallings, Washita and Henderson is like the small college version of Alabama Auburn. But she became the biggest Washita fans. They are one of our finest families in Arkansas. Another reason we honor them today. Thank you for being here to help honor Cliff Harris and the entire Harris family.
Thanks, Rex. Steve, go ahead and punch up. I wanted to show, obviously all these guys here are going to be on the selection committee for this award. We wanted to do it first class, and those of you who have seen the Broyles Award that I do, we have a $5,000 sculpture that and trophy that we give to the winner. This is going to be the image that's going to be on top of the trophy, and that is Cliff Harris nailing a player for the Rams. And so Raymond Gibby, who is our... I don't know if everybody's had a chance to see that or not, but nothing better. Does that not speak of defense to you? And that's how Cliff Harris played his football. So we're excited about that. We'll have a press conference somewhere in the fall, unveiling of that trophy. So Raymond Gibby is our sculptor. Now I know we're probably going to run a little long, so just hang with us. I'm so grateful to all of you for being here, and we're glad. This is an honor for all of us that you're here. So we want to make sure and give everybody their time. But two things we're going to do before we get to our special guest. Jim Rasco, who is the historian of the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, is going to give basically a quick story about Cliff and his background, and then we're going to watch a short video, and then we'll introduce our special guest. So, Jim, come up and give us a formal introduction of Cliff Harris.
Okay, Cliff Harris is a true Arkansan. Born in Fayetteville in 1948, he grew up in Hot Springs. When he was in the 10th grade, his coach, Ben Burton, said that young Cliff had a face like the Gerber baby and a body like a cheap 2-iron. But that Cliff felt deprived if he didn't get his lick in on every snap, even from deep safety. Cliff's legend started early. Coach Burton tells of a preseason scrimmage that was closely contested, wearing down everyone but Cliff. The big defensive tackle, Jim, timed a snap and penetrated deep, only to collide with our big fullback. Buster stayed upright with Big Jim riding and continued to struggle for yardage. Jim pleaded, "Lie down, you fool. Cliff will be here any second and knock the wadding out of both of us." Coach Burton continues, Cliff was a natural hitter and a team leader as a 135-pound sophomore. Then Cliff's family moved to Des Arc for his senior year in high school. In his 1 year as quarterback for the Des Arc Eagles, he led the Eagles to a perfect record of 12-0. His only scholarship offered was to play at his dad's alma mater, Washita, under Coach Buddy Bob Benson. As a junior in 1968, Cliff sprinted 85 yards with a punt return to lead Washita to a victory in the first annual Peanut Bowl in Dothan, Alabama. Early in his senior season, Washita faced rival State College of Arkansas, now known as UCA. SCA scored late in the fourth quarter to take a 10-7 lead, but Cliff returned the ensuing kickoff 85 yards for a touchdown to win the game for Washita 14-10. At one point in October of 1969, Cliff was leading the nation in kickoff returns with an average of 42 yards per return. At the end of the season, Cliff was named first-team All-AIC as a defensive back. The write-up stated that Washita safety Cliff Harris returned 34 kicks for 718 yards in the Tigers' first 9 games. One of them was the kickoff run back that beat State College. Coach Benson said, all he does for us is come up tough, go back tough, play the pass, play the run, cover the whole field, and sometimes he even scores. All of you are aware that no NFL team drafted Cliff, but the Dallas Cowboys invited him to join 120 other rookies to try out for the 1970 roster. He made the final cut, and he was the only rookie in the starting lineup for the first regular season game, which was on the road. The next week, the Cowboys had their home opener, September 27, 1970. The Giants led 10-0 at the half. On the first play the Giants ran in the second half, rookie Cliff Harris picked off a Fran Tarkington pass and scampered 60 yards to the 8-yard line to set up the first Dallas touchdown. The next pass Tarkington threw was also intercepted by Harris. On the Giants' third possession of the second half, the Giants fumbled, and Harris recovered on the Giants' 29. From there, Roger Staubach took over, and the Cowboys came back to win 28-10. True quote now, when interviewed on TV after the game, about all Cliff could say was, and this was written up in the Dallas papers, "Golly, I just can't believe it." And he said golly about 3 times. Prior to Cliff joining the Cowboys, Dallas had won only 1 playoff game in the first 10 years of the franchise. During Cliff's 10-year career, the Cowboys made the playoffs 9 times, winning 14 playoff games. They appeared in 5 Super Bowls, beating Miami 24-3 on January 16, 1972, and beating Denver 27-10 on January 15, 1978. They came up short in their other 3 Super Bowls by the margins of only 3, 4, and 4 points. In 1971, after just his second season with the Cowboys, Cliff beat out Lance Allworth, Brooks Robinson, and 4 other professional nominees to be named Professional Athlete of the Year for Arkansas. During his last 6 NFL seasons, Cliff was a unanimous All-Pro 3 times, consensus choice once, and was named to at least 1 All-Pro first team the other 2 seasons. Also, Cliff was named to play in 6 consecutive Pro Bowl All-Star games. With his 6 All-Pro seasons and 6 Pro Bowl appearances, it's no surprise that the Cowboy known as Captain Crash was named to the NFL's All-Decade team for the 1970s. In 1984, he was selected to the Cowboys' all-time team, covering the first 25 years of the Dallas franchise. In 1985, he was inducted in the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. Now get this, in 1999, Sports Illustrated published its all-time All-Pro team. Cliff was selected as the all-time best free safety in the entire history of professional football. One very special day that Cliff will never forget was October 10, 1974. He was inducted into the Cowboys' Ring of Honor. In closing, let's go back to his college career. Just as his grandfather and his father before him, Cliff played his football at a small college. Cliff is in the Ouachita Athletic Hall of Fame and the NAIA Hall of Fame. And from this season forward, an award will be presented annually to the best defensive player from a small college in the United States. All of our guests from Dallas here today have been selected to serve on the committee that will name the player to receive the award. In honor of Ouachita Tiger number 30 and Dallas Cowboy number 43, this award will forever be known as the Cliff Harris Award. So ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for this great new national award and its namesake, Cliff Harris.
When I started looking at the story of Cliff, I thought, this is a great fit for a national award for small college. And Cliff and I spoke about 8,000 hours on the phone and texting. I now know how Manti Te'o could have thought he was in a relationship without ever seeing the person. Karen Harris, I'm sorry, nothing against you, but I began to wonder what was going on. Even my girlfriend was asking questions. But guys, I had a chance to watch this video we're going to watch. This was the induction video of Cliff Harris into the Ring of Honor, the Cowboy Ring of Honor. And if you want to find out, I was so proud after watching this. I thought, oh my gosh, it reinforced this was the right idea. This was the right name to go on the Small College Defensive Player of the Year. My friend Tommy Smith pointed out, Cliff Harris today probably wouldn't make a game because he'd have a concussion every game. They'd have him. They would not let him play a game because he played with such abandon. But watch this video as we learn a little bit about the past of Cliff Harris.
I enjoyed playing the Super Bowl, but I'd like to have started last year. But this year I'm going to get the chance to be in there a little bit more, but still on the specialty teams.
Do you feel a little bit differently about this game than a year ago? Do you feel more confident in yourself?
Well, I felt like that I could have played last year, but this year I feel, confident too. I think, I'm ready, and I think the rest of the defense, I feel real confident in our defense.
That's the way to go. That's the way to hustle, Cliff.
Video or what? How about that? Outstanding. And that video was produced by Arkadelphia native Tony Ranchino at KATV. Great job, Tony, on that. Outstanding, sure enough. All right, because of the time issue we have here, Mel Renfro has been kind enough to give up his time to share with some of the other guys that time. So we're going to start off first with Kelsey Warren. Kelsey, come up if you would. Just say a few words about Cliff Harris. Please welcome Kelsey Warren back to the stage.
Okay, so I heard last night from my secretary that they wanted me to speak, and I said, you're kidding. I'm up here with all these great people. And so I called Cliff early this morning, and I said, Cliff, this just doesn't feel right. He said, I said, you want me to do this? He said, you'll say something nice, won't you? Sure. Let me first start off by saying Cliff Harris is a really good friend of mine. I mean, a really good friend. And I think everybody knows the difference in a good friend and a really good friend. A good friend will help you move. A really good friend will help you move a body. My really good friend. Fortunately, I don't have a lot of time here, so I can't go into that. But I've had the honor of knowing Cliff a long time. We are close friends. Charlie and Cliff and I started a business 20 years ago or so, I guess, and almost. And it's just been a pleasure to work with him. The best thing I'd say about Cliff, and it's really a big thing, is he doesn't know who he is. It's the truth. He does not have a clue who he is, because when you hang out with him, he's a guy. Occasionally, somebody will come up in a restaurant and bother Karen and ask for an autograph or something, but it takes that to remind him who he is. So I'm proud of him. Really good friend of mine.
Thanks, Hilton.
Cliff's Harris, position coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Please welcome to the podium, Gene Stallings.
Thank you, and what a joy. Can you imagine? Now, you people are really in for a treat. You're looking at several all-pros up on the dais, and that doesn't happen very often. And can you imagine a young coach in professional football having the privilege of coaching Charlie Waters and Cliff Harris and Mel Renfro and Cornell Green in one secondary? So I doubt if any place in the league anybody's ever played any better than those guys have. And when I think of Cliff, I think back, and first of all, he and Charlie knew a whole lot more about it than I did. And every time we'd get in a game, Charlie would tell me what I ought to do, and Cliff would tell me what. I said, guys, I think we got this turned around just a little bit. But anyway, they would help me tell what defenses we ought to play and so forth and so on. But we were playing in one game early in the year. Second year I was with the Cowboys, and a receiver ran down in the middle of the field, and Cliff pushed him. He just pushed him, went over and just pushed him. And they jawed a little bit, and his guys walking back, Cliff pushed him again. And so anyway, when they came off the field, I said, Cliff, you can't do that. He said, well, Coach, he was in my area. I said, Cliff, did you ever stop thinking he might have thought that was his area? And I said, what'd y'all say? And I just told him, I said, now, this area in here belongs to me, and don't you be running down in here anymore. And the guy said something, and I pushed him. And I kept pushing him. And I said, well, and so that sort of is a temperament of Cliff Harris. And what a joy it was to coach him. It reminds me just a little bit of a story that I've told a time or two. I got this letter during the Christmas vacation. And we get letters from time to time during Christmas, and they're telling about what your family does and the children and where they went to college, who got married, and et cetera, and et cetera. I got this letter from the lady that had a severely handicapped child. And in the letter, she was telling me what a joy it was to raise that child. But then she talked about the struggles of raising that child. This is the way she closed her letter. Life is not about waiting until the storm passes by, but it's learning how to dance in the rain. And see, I think Cliff Harris has taught a lot of young players that maybe from small schools and just would sort of hope and dream that they may one day have an opportunity to maybe play in college and go in the NFL. See, Cliff has taught a lot of youngsters how to dance in the rain. And it was a joy, Cliff, to be able to work with you. Thank you.
I think we're very fortunate to have Gil Brandt on the selection committee because he's mentioned that he already thinks he knows who the top 5 players might be for the award. So please welcome to the podium Gil Brandt, everybody.
Well, first of all, Cliff, I want you to know this. You left $50 on the table when you signed your first contract. You know. And he thinks I'm kidding, but it's true. Let me tell you how we found this great scouting system we had and how we found Cliff. We had a fellow named Earl Scuddy who was a newspaper person from Lubbock, Texas, and I think we paid him $500 to do this project. But he wrote every school, Division I, Division II, NAIA school in the country, and he wrote not only the head coach, but the athletic director, the trainer, and the PR SID, as they called them in those days. And we tried to follow up on people that had 6 or 7 different people recommend them. And so Cliff was one of the fellows that was recommended by a number of people. And somebody just talked about his kickoff returns. We knew so much about him that we just watched these couple kickoff returns, and we decided to sign him. Now, Mrs. Benson is here today, and I'll tell you this, Mr. Benson, or Coach Benson, cost me more with tickets that I used to have to get than I paid Cliff to sign. I'll tell you that right now. And of course, Tex would always say, why are we doing all this? Why are we doing all this? And then we thought so highly of him, we sent a fellow that was an aluminum salesman down to sign him. A fellow by the name of Levy, George Levy from Pittsburgh came down to sign him. And so obviously we didn't know what we had, or we would have did it a lot differently. I could go on for hours here, and I'm going to stop right now. Cliff and I go back a long way, and we've got a lot of stories that are unshareable, is what it is. One of the things was that I don't know how many contracts I signed him to, so this was always a chore to sign him to a contract. And we were on the 11th floor, and Cliff would get a little tense. And I was always worried that he was going to take me down. Roger scared Tex one time when he walked around this 11-story window, 11th story of the floor, and knocked on his window while Tex was on the phone. Well, I was afraid that Cliff was going to take me out there and drop me down 11 stories. So obviously, he got whatever he wanted. This is a great thing for Cliff, and if anybody deserves it, he does. The only thing that we do need to do with Cliff now is get him in the Pro Football Hall of Fame where he belongs. Thank you.
Next up, Cliff's business partner and partner in the secondary. Please welcome Charlie Waters.
So our company has a golf tournament every year, or used to long ago. It's like a Ryder Cup deal, and they send an invitation out for me to play, or for all of us to play, and I wrote back to them that I wasn't going to be able to play because of bad judgment. Unfortunately, on many plays during my career, I was around the area that Cliff exploded. And it's called collateral damage. And I remember Herb Adderley, when we brought him in from Green Bay, he played for us for a couple of years in the early 70s. He grabbed, Cliff killed him, drilled Herb in the back, and Herb jumped up and grabbed his jersey and says, I got the same freaking jersey on as you do. Quit hitting me. So I had... I suffered from bad judgment. I had my back fused with titanium, and I know it's from the collisions that I got from Cliff. My hardest hit is in our highlight film that we've got together, is showing Cliff hitting me and knocking me out, and I'm laying on the ground with my hands up like this. You know how your hands go up like this when you're knocked out? And Cliff is going, got him. But that enthusiasm, we had fun playing, I'll tell you that. We had fun playing because we were good, and Cliff was really good. And the only other award that he really needs to get, and Gil just mentioned it, and it's what I wanted to say, is it's a shame that he's not in the Hall of Fame, because he epitomizes, whenever an offense designs their game plan when you think about the guy on the defensive side of the ball, I coached long enough to know that when you set your game plan based on what that one guy does back there in his, quote, area, then that person is deserving of Hall of Fame vote. Cliff was an incredible player and a great force for our team and a great inspiration for many years.
Next up, one of the greatest receivers in NFL history, Drew Pearson, everyone.
You stay right there now, okay? People always ask me, what's the hardest hit you've ever gotten in the NFL? Right there. In practice, a Thursday practice, getting ready to play the Washington Redskins. And I come across the middle, running our offense, and I take the pass from Staubach. And as soon as I turn, I got smacked by Cliff. And I'm laying on the turf with my hands up like this. My legs wobbling, and they look really serious because Coach Landry came running down there to see if I was okay. And once he found out I was okay, he moved the drill up 10 yards so we can continue practice. With the Dallas Cowboys in 1973 as an undrafted free agent. That's back when they had 17 rounds of the NFL draft. They drafted 452 players that year, and nobody thought Drew Pearson was good enough to waste a draft pick on. Now, I'm almost over that. I'm not as bitter as I used to be about that. You got to move on in life. You can't dwell on those negatives. So being a free agent, and that's back really when free really meant free, Gil. My signing bonus was $150. If I had known that extra $50 was there, I would have held out for $200. But anyway, as a free agent, I had a chance to sign with the Green Bay Packers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, or the Dallas Cowboys. And I was smart enough to realize that this brother wasn't going to be playing no football up in Green Bay because it's too cold up there. And I didn't like the Steelers' uniforms, plus they were going to get us a guy named Lynn Swann, so I wanted him to have a career in the NFL. So I ended up signing with the Dallas Cowboys, and what inspired me to make that decision to sign with the Cowboys, of course, Tom Landry, Gill, and Tex, and all that great organization, Roger Staubach, the quarterback, but it was the history of their free agents making their roster. And there was one guy in particular that stood out to me. And the reason he stood out is because of how he got to be a free agent and where he came from to be a member of that Dallas Cowboys. He came from, with all due respect, okay, Ouachita Baptist, and ended up making the Dallas Cowboys. So that gave me inspiration coming from Tulsa University, and that it gave me motivation and inspiration that if Cliff Harris can make it from Ouachita Baptist and be a member of the Dallas Cowboy football team, that gave me an inspiration that one day maybe I can take that same route and make the Dallas Cowboys, coming out of a small school at that time, Tulsa University, and making that Dallas Cowboy roster. So he influenced me, he inspired me. So hopefully this name on this award, the Cliff Harris Award, will inspire other young men, not so much about what they see in that name, but where he came from to get there. You know, Frederick Douglass says, "Judge me not by the heights I've reached, but rather the depths from which I've come." And that's how I judge Cliff Harris. And hopefully now when people see me, along with Cliff, as the two free agents in that Dallas Cowboy Ring of Honor, they see me and judge me the same way, not being up there, but how I got there. And hopefully that will inspire these young kids from the small college and let them know that they have an opportunity, a chance to make it if they get that opportunity. The Cowboys gave us that opportunity, and we parlayed it into a great opportunity, playing 11 years for me, 10 years for Cliff in the NFL. But not only that, we parlayed it into a life after football. And Cliff influenced me so many ways, what I did on that football field and also what I did in my life after football. We influenced each other after we became teammates. I influenced him so much that he named one of his sons after me, Drew. Right? Andrew. But I'm just Drew. He couldn't go all the way. I'll take Andrew. What the heck? But he called him Drew, right? We call him Drew. And finally, he influenced me so much that I started wearing my hair just like his.
Our last speaker, one of the finest players to ever play the game of football, Roger Staubach.
Well, it's a privilege being here. And 1969, I joined the Dallas Cowboys. I was an old guy. I was 27 at the time. In 1970, we got Cliff Harris, and I found out I had somebody that I know competed harder than anybody that I've ever met, and I was noted at times for being very competitive. But we would just kind of jog around. We'd get to warm up. We'd jog around the field, or out in Thousand Oaks, we'd jog around the track. And then Cliff kept looking where I was, and I kept looking to where he was. And then we'd speed it up, and so we'd end up racing each other around there. And everything he did was competitive. Then we started playing golf, best hole. We'd just go hole to hole. And whenever he lost, which he did most of the time, he was impossible to deal with. And he was, as many have said, he was one of a kind. But there was another player that we had, Bob Hayes, really had a big effect on defenses. Bob was so fast, he was unbelievable. He just had a speed. Remember hitting him on a pass up in New York in Yankee Stadium. He caught the ball at about the 50-yard line, and Spider Lockhart was right there on him, and as Bob caught the ball, he took off, and Spider took off, and Bob was 5 yards ahead of him when he crossed the goal line. And so he really had an effect on changing defenses. It was just tough to play man-to-man. You had to play zone, and so you had to do something different because of Bob Hayes. And we had another player, Cliff Harris. Cliff played safety. A lot of safeties were deep, looking for they didn't really like to hit a lot of people, but they liked to intercept, which was, it's nice too. But Cliff became a safety and a linebacker, and as Charlie mentioned and everybody else has mentioned, he covered a lot of ground. His speed, his ability, his instincts were fantastic, and they're Hall of Fame instincts and abilities. He was fantastic, and he changed how safeties' responsibilities. Dallas took advantage. I think Gene and Ernie and our defensive coaches, Coach Landry, took advantage of Cliff and made sure that he made some tackles now and then, which he did. But he had the ability to do it. So he really had an effect on how safeties play the game of football even today. He's a great friend. As Judy mentioned, he's been very involved with juvenile diabetes. My dad was a diabetic, and one time I did the American diabetes for 1 year on our away games. I went to a lot of different functions, but juvenile does a lot of fantastic research, and he's been involved. Charlie's been involved with him. A lot of us have been involved, but it's been his golf tournament. He has fostered it. He is behind it. He's not only a great athlete. He's also a great human being.
I think it's time. Ladies and gentlemen, Cliff Harris, everybody.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Oh, starting up. Yeah, there we go. Get these turned around. Unbelievable. Thank you very much. I truly am overwhelmed right now. I feel like that I've just listened to my own eulogy. When I was going up here and David was going on and we were talking about the things in the beginning about you know, all the awards and all that stuff, and I'm just realizing, you know, we've got Hall of Fame, you know, guys up here that are up here too, and then they were bored. I know they're reading their magazine and all that. It's like whatever, because I know we are too, you know. This is big time, and I'm so grateful for all of you guys coming. I'm going to go into that a little bit later today. It was really, I mean, I am truly a blessed guy growing up in Arkansas. I am an Arkansan, and I'm also blessed because I look at that video that took place so many years ago, and I really appreciate Tony Rankino's part in that. And I think about how blessed I am being healthy in the NFL, because there are a lot of guys that aren't as healthy as me, and the NFL needs to step up and take care of those guys. I feel very, very much about. But I'm also a blessed guy because I grew up in Arkansas. I grew up in Hot Springs and then moved to Des Arc, and I had a great family, great parents that really supported me, and you know, it was I wouldn't have changed a thing in my life. I would not have changed or wanted to have any other go in any other way, the way that it went, because it was the best way. It was meant to be the way it was, and I wouldn't have changed one other thing. I was so grateful to be able to come from where I came from, as we were talking about earlier, being a skinny kid in Hot Springs and moving to Des Arc and then going to Ouachita and then on to the Dallas Cowboys was such a incredible journey, life journey for me, and I'm so grateful and blessed that it happened the way that it did. Today I feel like I live two lives. A life like Kelsey was mentioning. Charlie and I are in one of Kelsey Warren's companies, the Energy Transfer Partners company. We're in the compression business, and the last week or so I was in the business and having a business lunch, and out of the blue a guy comes up and, you know, politely introduces himself, and he says, "Weren't you Cliff Harris?" And I said, "Yes, I was." Because that was the other world that I lived in, you know. I mean, it is another world, and these guys do the same. They have their lives, and I don't think that they would if they'd have paid us what they're paying them today. We wouldn't have two lives, would we? So We'd be good. But in that other life, out of the world, I'm, you know, talking compression and horsepower and everything else is going on in there. I get a call from David Basil, and David Basil says, you know, he wants to have an award that supports small colleges and defensive players. And I said, well, you know, I know that one, and I know defensive players need support, and so do, and a recognition, and so do small colleges. So, I mean, that's a great deal. And they said, well, we want to name this award after you. And I said, well, wait a minute. We want to do a national award. And I said, oh, well, that takes some more thought. But as you know how good David Basil is at his job, convinced me to do this, pushed into it, and steamrolled this thing. And we created such a great committee that I can tell you I'm so proud to be associated with. But before I say much more, I just want to recognize, you know, that my wife Karen here that could deliver this. Could deliver this speech. I know this talk that we're having, and Miss Benson, I'm so glad that you're here. Because Coach Benson meant so much in my life when I was as a player, and Coach Burton, my high school coach at Hot Springs, is here, and Coach Rollins. Coach Burton did develop a weight program there, and I did go from 135 pounds up to like 155. So I was a real tough guy. lean and mean, as Drew understands very much. And today, I want to give a special, and my brother Tommy's here. I know, and we mentioned that before. Margaret, my brother Tommy played as a Razorback in the Cotton Bowl, a great player. My sister Margaret was the best athlete in the family, held a 220 record, and used to, the guys would pick her over me when we were doing softball. So, I hold that. Thanks for bringing my competitiveness to a new level. And my nephew Kyle, who's here today with his wife Michelle. And I see David Sharp and all my Washita buddies right here in this table, right in this area right here. I'm glad that, and Dr. Horn, I'm glad to see you here today. And, all my Washita buddies that are here are a lot older than me, but I'm glad that they're here. Yes. What? My son, Matt. I'm sorry. How could I forget Matt? Too many hits, he said. But I was getting there. Matt, I'm glad Matt is back here in Arkansas. I'm really thrilled to have a son that's up here in Arkansas and keeping the Harris family in Arkansas, my side of it, because we've got Margaret here. My sister is a teacher in North Little Rock. They're here. But I'd like to also give a special thanks to Kelsey Warren, who is the CEO of, we have to talk about this, Energy Transfer Partners. He is an all-pro, could be an all-pro linebacker if he had any speed. He is definitely an all-pro businessman because he took a company out of bankruptcy and in a very short period of time built it to a $40 billion enterprise. And all these guys, except for Gene, flew up on his jet today. They had a little breakdown, which panicked me a little bit, because this was a big deal that these guys be here today. But I appreciate very much Kelsey taking these guys up here with me. Thank you, Kelsey. And the other, because we had to make a special, because Gene Stallings is a special man in my life, and he had to be here today. Mr. Hatcher was here. Where is he here today? I want to say thank you very much for Greg Hatcher, because he sent his plane to get Gene today. And I called Gene. Gene called me this morning, and he said, "Is today the day of your deal?" And I knew he was just trying to put some, make me nervous and get me ready, fired up. You did. He knows how to motivate, don't you, Gene? But I would like to, tell you about how much these guys have meant to me and talk about each one of them individually. I mean, Gene, was the head coach of Alabama, and first he was at Texas A&M, the head coach of Texas A&M, and he played football at Alabama. And when Texas A&M, when he was the head coach of Texas A&M, he beat Alabama, and Bear Bryant held him up out of his shoulders. It was really awesome. And then he took Alabama to the national championship and won with them. And I was really glad to have him as my coach and mentor and friend, and glad to have you here today. I can remember when he first came to the Cowboys, he was fresh out of A&M and was a young man coach at the time, and he said, "Okay, guys," we had Cornell Green and Mel Renfro and I think Herb Adderley and all these all-pros, today Hall of Fame guys, and in the lineup in practice. We were in Thousand Oaks, California, and Gene says, "All right, guys, line up. We're going to do some hitting," you know. And I remember Mel going over to Coach Stallings and going, "Gene, we don't hit." It was all pro, I'm telling you. There's some leverage you got. Of course, Charlie and I ran into each other, you know. But it was a unique time. And then when Rayfield Wright was coming in today, he fell and broke his rib, by the way. I don't know if you guys know that. He fell over and broke his rib, so he's so he couldn't make it today. So we'll think about him. But Gil is a guy that is someone that was really integral in my life, because he did find me, and he did give me a cheap, not a very good contract, but I'm okay with it today. Thank you for that time. And Mel, of course, was an all-pro when I was there as the at corner, and allowed me to do what I did, because he would take half the field and all I had to do was cover the other half, and let him, because he was a great player. And then Charlie Waters, in spite of the rods in his back, Charlie, you failed to mention that you took on 270-pound guards and tackles and stopped them so I could make the tackle. That might have had some impact on your back, the little instrument, just a few physics. And then Drew Pearson, what a guy, that a free agent, Drew. And I remember so many times that in this critical situation of the last part of the game that Drew would make the big catch. That's why they can call him Mr. Clutch. And those times, catch balls going across the middle. I don't know, he was a lot skinnier than he was today. And linebackers, he would dodge them. The only time that I saw him injured is when he did a wheel spike in the end zone and he hurt his knee. He's still skinny. Yeah, that's right. Only time he was injured was in the end of the spike. So, and then Charlie and I have had many experiences together. We came in on the same year and competed against each other, with each other, became good friends, and rode dirt bikes together in the off season under assumed names, didn't we? Motocross. And I'm sorry if I hurt your back. And the reason to go into such detail is that, is because I want to let you know that this committee, and of course we've got others on the committee of Leroy Jordan and Jim Hart, and the guys that I know, and Jackie Smith, that couldn't be here today, but they're going to know these guys are the core of the Dallas Cowboys. I did forget one guy that I was going to talk about for just a second. It's Roger Staubach. I'm sorry, Raj.
Yeah, he's like gigging me.
He's saying he's not going to say anything about it. I've got some things to say about you, and Drew. Yeah, that's right. But Roger, if you think about somebody that means a lot to a team, I'll never forget a game in RFK Stadium. RFK Stadium was the toughest place that you could play. The Cowboys, they hated the Cowboy players so much up there, and I feel like if they'd have said, it's okay to kill the team, you can go down, they would just let it out and they would massacre the Cowboys down there. The fans would, and and I love playing there because we'd beat them. But I can know that. So we were in the fourth quarter of the game, and it happened so many times. And we would say, and think about the significance of this, is that we would say, all right, guys, we've got to stop them right now. It's the fourth quarter. We got to stop them. We got to get the ball back to Roger. We didn't say we got to get the ball back to the offense. We said we got to get the ball back to Roger Staubach, because we knew that if we could in the fourth quarter, they could win. We could win the game. And it made so much a difference on the impact of not only the defensive team, but it had an impact on the whole team, because, you have one guy that you believe in and know that you can, if he can perform and you can let him perform, it's going to make you perform better. And Roger was that kind of guy. I can tell you, I was standing next to Roger and one time when the Cowboys, today's Cowboys, were out there on the field practicing, and and I was looking at these guys. They've gotten so big and so fast, and looking at Troy Aikman, he's big and tall and tough, and I looked at Roger, and he's in good shape and all that stuff, but he's not those big guys. And I looked at Roger and I said, God, Raj, what made you different? What made you special that in this? How are you in the Hall of Fame and all that stuff? He said, I got a really strong arm. I said, well, okay, whatever. Good answer. But I think the most intense game that he ever played in was you know where I'm going? The most intense game was at the Cooper's Aerobic Center when it was the 2-on-2 over 40 league basketball game. All the guys, the members of the Cooper Center were all around the little arena down there, and it was my guy against Roger and his buddy. It was one of our friends. So it was 2-on-2. And I'll never forget this. I was guarding Roger, and Roger was bringing the ball in. It was a really intense time. We were ahead of him, and Roger looked at me, and I had just asked him to go up and speak at Walmart to meet Sam Walton, and he was going to go up and do their cheering thing. I know you guys got to go. But he was going up there to do the speech, and he was bringing the ball in, and he said, just how bad do you want me to go up and make that speech? I said, I caught me off guard. He went right by me. We've had great times. And these are really good friends. So take time out of their schedule to come up and spend their time and listen to things about me. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Jean. Will, Charles. Thank you. I'm grateful very much. And Judy, thank you very much for your support on this award. And this award does mean a lot to me because and all of defensive guys know that how important it is that we get recognition because it's given to the offensive guys all the time. But it's going to show that this is the thing that I'm hoping for in this, is that what is happening in these small colleges, there are athletes like me that come out of the blue and like Drew Pearson that come out of here. They're like great athletes that come out of they don't get the recognition that they deserve sometimes. They don't expect it, many times. They don't expect to have this recognition. They don't, because they're not playing for that. There's a picture that I have that during my Ouachita days, one of our players who's a wide receiver, and he and I still get along, Doug Freeze, there was a picture of a guy, and he had an action shot that was really a great action shot, running across the field, and he's had black stuff under his eyes, and it was action. It was running, just incredible picture. And we were all jealous of that because everybody wanted to have a picture. Well, they only had one camera, and they probably took 3 pictures of the game at Ouachita, but he had a great picture, and Doug was a really good receiver, set all these records, and the reason he did is because I told him, because I covered him every day in practice and didn't catch any passes in the practice, and game day was a day off. Right, Doug? So, but we look back at this picture years later, and it was Austin College in the afternoon playing Ouachita. And we look at that cool picture with the, running and the black stuff under his eyes like this, and you look back in the background of that, and you see the visitor stands, and there's nobody in there. Well, it talks about the heart of these small college guys. It talks about their passion, their commitment, and what we're looking for is something that Coach Benson used to say to us, the fine line, right? That the fine line between winning and losing, the fine line between an average player and a real competitor. These guys up here at the table are men of heart, champions of the heart. I mean, guys that are going to know the difference in what's going to make up the player that's picked for this award. And we're going to call this and put this on there, the Fine Line Award for Coach Benson. All right, let's, don't let me get stuck here. Look, I appreciate everybody coming here. I know that you guys have got to get back. Kelsey, I know you're working on a big deal, you told me. I don't know if it's inside information, but he's always working on a big deal. I was just kidding. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so, I'm really grateful for it because I'm grateful for it. And I feel like if all my friends and all my teammates that are here and all the people that I know are related to, if everybody left, there wouldn't be anybody left. But I'm very grateful for your help, your support of this award, and we're gonna make it something that's going to give these guys, these young men, hope. They're going to get hope. They're going to be able to look at this, maybe what I've done and give them hope and give them the faith that they've got a chance to do something. Because if they know if somebody from Ouachita can come in and play in 5 Super Bowls, that they've got a chance, and they give them an opportunity in their lives to succeed. And I'm hoping that this award will help them achieve in a way that before the award it would not have happened. So thank you very much, and thank you, David Basil.
Let's hear it for Cliff Harris and all the guys who came in from Dallas. Roger, Drew, Mel, Charlie, Gene, Gil, Kelsey. Thank you for being here, everybody. Next week, Dan Hampton on Tuesday. Dan Hampton on Tuesday. Guys, we'll get one picture, and then we'll get you guys on the bus. Let's just stay up there with